Good morning. Good morning and welcome. I'm Naomi Goldstein. I'm the director of the ACF Office of Planning, Research, and Evaluation, and I'm pleased to welcome you to the 16th Annual Welfare Research and Evaluation Conference. In a few minutes, I'll be pleased to introduce my boss, Acting Assistant Secretary George Sheldon, but I'm going to work up to it. I want to share some thoughts first. I do have some slides. Here we are. Can we go to the next slide? So I was recently asked to state my core values in a few words. It was an interesting exercise, and it didn't take long for me to come up with the first two, knowledge and compassion. I was a little slower to come around to adding courage as a third one. I was pretty taken with my own insightfulness, but it turns out I'm not very original. Apparently, it's been 2,500 years since Confucius said, "Wisdom, compassion, and courage are the three universally recognized moral qualities." So let's stipulate that these are important values. And I want to take a few minutes to reflect on what they have to do with our meeting. Next slide, please. First, let's consider ACF's mission. With George's leadership, ACF has developed a strategic plan that includes a statement of mission as follows: to foster health and well-being by providing federal leadership, partnership, and resources for the compassionate and effective delivery of human services. This statement covers two of the three values. Compassion is stated explicitly, and I would argue that effective service delivery requires knowledge. Sometimes people see evaluation as being in opposition to helping people. Numbers and statistics can seem cold, while helping is warm. But evaluation is about learning to help people better. If it's not effective, it's not really compassionate. In our Office of Planning, Research, and Evaluation, we share in the agency's mission of fostering health and well-being, and we have the special responsibility of generating knowledge about how to do it better. Sometimes that means delivering findings that may be disappointing, unwelcome, or controversial. That can take courage. Truthfully, I consider it a privilege to go to work every day to further that ACF mission of helping and the particular responsibility of learning how to do it better. What we do, what all of us here do, is important. It matters to people who want to work toward making their families financially secure. And it matters that service providers, policymakers, and researchers work together to figure out how best to provide that opportunity. That brings me to my next topic and the next slide, coffee. We're not serving any. HHS rules prohibit it. I know it's irritating, although you're probably used to it by now. But I'd like to put it in a broader context. Federal conferences have gotten a lot of extra scrutiny lately. Mix together a few scandals with tight budgets, and people ask a lot of questions before approving a conference like this. That we're able to be here at all shows that George and others at HHS made a judgment that what we're doing here is important. And in an environment often characterized by what seems like rampant finger-pointing, it took some courage to make that judgment. Thank you, George. We'll get by without the free coffee. You can buy a cup at the hotel cafe upstairs. I want to sincerely thank the OPRE staff and contractors who planned this conference. Mark Fuccello, the fearless director of the Division of Economic Independence, Emily Schmidt and Erica Zieluski, Claire DeSalvo, Hillary Forster, Sarah Saddlemeyer, Jason Despain, Katie Glenn, Jessica Smith. As they do every year, they've developed a stimulating, thoughtful program that reflects their broad and deep knowledge of family self-sufficiency research. And they've done it in a challenging context of diminished resources and shifting rules about what's allowable and how to get things done. Thanks to our technical work group members for their good advice. We had a terrific meeting with them yesterday, and a list of this distinguished group is in your program. Finally, we all appreciate our colleagues at ESI who handle the conference logistics with grace and efficiency. Jennifer Pinder, Annie Oliver, and Michelle Rasper. I am now pleased to introduce George Sheldon, my boss and the Acting Assistant Secretary for the Administration for Children and Families. George previously served as the Secretary of the Florida Department of Children and Families. Among other distinctions, he served as Deputy Attorney General for Central Florida and spent 8 years in the Florida House of Representatives. Having worked with George for a while now, I can say from experience that he brings wisdom and compassion to his leadership, and he's not afraid to use them. That's a trifecta. George.
Naomi, thank you. I appreciate those gracious comments. Actually, if you looked at my bio, you would come to the conclusion that I probably can't hold a job down for very long. But it is good to be with you. I also want to, and I'm so glad that Naomi thanked the staff of OPRE, because you know, as I look through the Administration for Children and Families with the array of responsibilities that we have, the reality is, as Assistant Secretary, I don't implement it. It is the dedicated staff of that agency that works hard every day. And when Naomi talks about knowledge and compassion and courage, I think the OPRE staff specifically, but I think the staff of ACF really has that kind of knowledge and compassion. They care about individuals. I also want to thank Mark Greenberg, who is our Deputy Assistant for Policy. I learned a long time ago that the key to these kind of positions is always surround yourself with people brighter than you are. And there are those who say that I don't have any trouble doing that. But Mark really brings that. Mark is one of the most knowledgeable people in the area of poverty, where we're heading in this country. The other person I really would like to recognize is Don Winstead, who was my Deputy Secretary in Florida and really made us look good. I'm pleased that Naomi talks about her values, knowledge, compassion, and courage. Actually, Don and I had in Florida an implementation strategy which we called our 2-cent solution, common sense and a sense of urgency. Generally, two operating values that government's not very good at on an ongoing basis. Over the next several days, you will be looking at this field of welfare research and evaluation, and there are those probably in the broader community who would say those are not very sexy topics. But I can assure you that there are few as vital as this goal in really improving the lives of people that we deal with every day. President Obama talks about his ladders of opportunity, and that's what we provide to individuals and families on the programmatic side. But those ladders, I think all of us know, must be sturdy, they must withstand scrutiny, and they must, most importantly, achieve that stated purpose to provide an important pathway to the middle class and to economic self-sufficiency. Metaphorically, I really like the concept of ladders. It's visual, it's dynamic, and it's aspirational. And while we look at each of those rungs, we begin to understand that providing people with useful and truly uplifting tools that they need to plan, design, to implement, and really, we have to do the evaluation of those programs on an ongoing basis. And all of that requires a great deal of research and evaluation. The twin pillars of policy and program improvement. I'm constantly amazed at the commitment and the passion that researchers have for their jobs, and that each of you really bring to your job. Whether it's in a laboratory setting, a clinical setting, a research library, or an office, research and evaluation can be tedious, but there are a few breakthroughs. There are a few of those aha moments, that eureka moment. It takes dedication and it takes discipline to compile and really deal with the mountains of data that we get. Your presence here today is really a telltale sign that you are both dedicated and disciplined. Many of you are already widely published and recognized experts in your field. and many more of you will be soon. I really want to take an additional personal moment to recognize one of, I think, this country's great researchers, Naomi Goldstein. It was with a great deal of pleasure recently that during a senior staff meeting, I was able to present to Naomi the 2012 Presidential Rank Award for Distinguished Service. President Obama does not make those decisions lightly because it is to recognize the best among us. And I think Naomi really brings that to the table. Naomi is really a remarkable moment. She's been recognized for her leadership, for her commitment to our mission, for her dedication to professionalism. You know, sometimes she'll provide research to me and I'll say, well, this really isn't what I wanted. But her response is, but it's the truth. And I think that is an important thing that she talks about in terms of courage. Specifically, she was selected for ensuring that the work that OPRE does would be rigorous, relevant, rewarding, and the last one I like, not wrapped in red tape. Focusing on these 4 goals, which she calls the 4 R's, she has compiled a record of exceptional accomplishments. Her tenure at ACF, she has been continuously raising the level of excellence and rigor in the work that she oversees. She's increased policy relevance through improved collaboration with ACF programs and with our partners. She's fostered staff creativity and continuous learning. And she's increased efficiency through streamlined procedures and systems. And as a result, her office is widely recognized as a leader in forging sound evidence to bear on our decision-making. That's no small accomplishment. Naomi, thank you. I want to take a moment to really talk about some of the work that OPRE has done here and overseas, and what we've learned over the years. Through rigorous evaluation of a demonstration project in Nebraska several years ago, we learned how family self-improvement services delivered by home visitors could improve the earnings of very disadvantaged individuals who had low attachment to the labor force. I remember going to a program in San Francisco in the Bay Area called Kitchens of Champions. It was a training program for people to give them really the culinary skills so that they could work in good restaurants. Several individuals there spoke about their story. There was a young woman named Casey who used to eat at a food bank when she was a kid, and she used to come for meals every so often. And she saw those people in white coats and asked about the program. She started taking classes. She'd ended up going to college and getting her bachelor's in food technology. 5 other students got up and told their stories. One young woman was the mother of 5 who wanted to set a different example for her kids. 2 men had just served time in prison and wanted to stay straight. One man worked in construction for years, but all the construction work had dried up. The chef who was running the program used to be a teacher in a local high school. That's what this is really all about. It's about changing people's lives. It's about determining those programs that work and those programs that don't work, and seeing how we move forward. In the years following implementation of the Temporary Assistance to Needy Families program, we devoted a lot of study to understanding better how people really retain and advance employment. 2 programs studied targeted employed individuals, employed TANF recipients in Chicago, and steered them into openings in higher paying jobs. Another employed TANF leavers in Riverside, California, that had offered a range of programs. Positive economic impacts of both programs were driven in part by increases in the proportion of people who obtained a new job. This suggests the advantage of employment retention over specific job retention, which has become an important distinction between how we create meaningful opportunities to TANF recipients. We will continue to study the barriers of individuals through their substantial employment difficulties. For instance, through a rigorous evaluation of a transitional jobs program in New York City for men who were leaving prison, we learned that it is possible to significantly reduce recidivism among individuals who began the job program shortly after release from prison. And that group was really the group that it was designed to serve. That group was less likely to be arrested after the program, less likely to be convicted of a new crime, less likely to be reincarcerated compared to the control group. The takeaway from that careful and rigorous study leads to a critical and detailed knowledge that cannot be otherwise learned. And so it is, day after day, year after year, that we peel back the layers one at a time, and we learn more about how best to ensure meaningful programming. Research into social service programming is a hard slog. And believe me, I think all of you would agree. I would prefer that one day, one of you emerge from your study one morning and proclaim that you've discovered the solution to how we eradicate poverty. A dream. That you have found the answer to any of the intractable issues that we grapple with every day. You toil in what you do, knowing that that kind of discovery is highly unlikely. But yet you realize that your work is critical to what we do in trying improving our society as a whole. Your work drives you and informs quite literally everything that we do at the Administration for Children and Families in dealing with struggling families. So as we proceed in this, and as you as researchers and evaluations go forward in evaluating programs, I think it's fundamentally important to retain your optimism that each little piece of research, each evaluation performed, can have the opportunity one day to change somebody's life, to one day make a difference in closing down a program that doesn't work and putting that into a program that we have the credible evidence that does work. It was once said that optimism is essential to achievement. And it is also, Naomi, I would point out, the foundation of courage and of true progress. So as we move forward, as you move forward in developing the kind of sound research and evaluation, we have to continually keep our eye on the gold, and that is making a meaningful difference in individual people's lives. Thank you very much, and I wish you well for a good conference.
Thank you, George. Thank you so much for getting us off to an optimistic start. I do like to talk about the 4 R's, that our work should be rigorous, rewarding, relevant, and not wrapped up in red tape. And more recently, we've started to think about a 4th R, which I call REACH, which is about the dissemination and communication of our activities. And before we turn to our first plenary session, I want to say a word about that. We've invested some time and thought toward improving how we communicate our work. We contracted with a firm called PSI to help us with this, and Mary Myrick of PSI will be speaking about this work at a session on Friday morning. Colleen Bayes, over here, has joined OPRE as a dissemination specialist, and she'll be at the conference over the next few days, eager to talk with you about what kind of materials and communication methods work best for you. This conference is one important avenue for communication. The Self-Sufficiency Research Clearinghouse is another. We have provided a grant to our colleagues at ICF International to develop the clearinghouse as a library of information on self-sufficiency research and a means to promote sharing of knowledge among a broad range of stakeholders. You can test drive the clearinghouse at a kiosk near the Regency Ballroom. It's just out there to the left. We've also upgraded our electronic newsletter. You can sign up for our newsletter near the registration desk at a booth with information about the Office of Planning, Research, and Evaluation. And of course, you can sign up and learn about what we do at our website. We're also moving into social media, as you can see on the slide. The RELFA Research and Evaluation Conference is on Twitter and LinkedIn. And as of yesterday, the Office of Planning, Research, and Evaluation is on Twitter and Facebook, and will soon be on LinkedIn too. You can join the virtual conversation by tweeting with the hashtag WREC2013. As a reminder, if you want others to see your tweets and retweet them, you have to take your settings off private. You can also start a virtual roundtable discussion by joining our LinkedIn group. We're live streaming all the sessions that are taking place in this room, and welcome to all of you who are participating virtually. You can submit questions by tweeting with the hashtag RECLive, by emailing to the email address reclivestream@gmail.com, or by using the submit a question function on the live stream site. I want to circle back for a minute to the value of courage. It takes a little bit of courage for a federal agency to move into social media. Social media are social, and that means giving up some control over communication, as there's inherently give and take. So I hope that the conference will spark some lively dialogue on these social media platforms, and I hope you'll keep the dialogue courteous and respectful. Don't make us regret sticking our neck out. We also encourage real live in-person interactions, and there are some specific sessions designed for that. On Wednesday afternoon in this ballroom, there'll be an Emerging Scholars poster session. Posters will be displayed throughout the conference, starting this afternoon. And on Wednesday afternoon, the scholars themselves will be on hand to answer questions. On Thursday afternoon, we'll have facilitated roundtables, and your program book has specific information about the roundtable topics and locations. And Wednesday, that's today, at 5:15 at the Marquee Bar in the hotel, we are sponsoring an informal social gathering. That basically just means that a bunch of us will be there and you can buy a drink for yourself. But we look forward to it. And then before I invite our panel up, I want to just ask you to take a few minutes to introduce yourself to someone that you don't already know and ask them about where they're from and what they do. We've done this in the past, and it surprises me how enthusiastically you all embrace it. So go for it. I'll give you 3 or 4 minutes, and I'll call you back when it's time to move on.